CHGO White Sox postgame show coming to you live from Chicago. It's your full CHGO White Sox crew. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, our CHGO White Sox beat writer, Vinnie Duber. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. And the man that's usually in the middle, but he's just next to Vinnie today, is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at Eckernall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox. We're being produced today by Sarah.
Hello.
Hello. And make sure you're saying hi to us by hitting that thumbs up button and subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We are joining you live after a White Sox winner. They win 4-1, get their 9th victory on the year. They secure the season series against the Tampa Rays, and they hand the Rays their first loss in the City Connect uniform. So, hey, there we go. We'll take it. The White Sox get a win, and Paul DeJong is now the White Sox leader in home runs. Who would have thought? I mean, even when we were joking about it yesterday, I didn't think it was going to happen.
And yet it did. Paul DeJong comes through with the biggest run-scoring hit of the day, and it was absolutely mashed. That ball was crushed. He has 5 home runs. Nobody else has that many on the White Sox, so he is the team leader in sole possession. We talked yesterday. He was tied with Eloy, and Gavin Sheets, but now he's Gavin Sheets only has 3, but Paul DeJong there all by himself. That inning, those 2 hits back to back. Some fat pitches for Bryan Ramos and Paul DeJong to hit, and they did not miss them. Bryan Ramos came very, very close to getting his first career home run. Paul DeJong got his 5th home run of the season. And we saw nearly a replay of that Ramos hit later in the game. Benintendi came very, very close to homering as well. So the White Sox were loving the top of that outfield wall at the Trop today.
And that thing that Savale did where he was trying to tunnel a pitch, but he did it backwards. He threw a high fastball to DeJong on the first pitch. With DeJong, it seems like that's his poison. He swings at all of them, and he misses most of them. And then he tried to back him up with a cutter inside. I don't think it was supposed to be inside because he threw it in the same area as the fastball, which was only 91. The cutter was 87. So he sped his bat up, and Paul DeJong did what you're supposed to do to a ball that's hanging inside to you like that he just sped your bat up with, crushed that ball to left center field. So it's good to see the White Sox taking advantage of mistakes done by the other pitchers, which we see that done by the opposing teams to our pitchers sometimes.
And 2, I don't think you mentioned the Eloy Jimenez rocket in his first at-bat, 111.6 miles per hour, where Jose Siri kind of had a bad read, but he almost had another homer as well. So a lot of pop from the Sox today. And Eloy made up for it a little bit later on where he drove in a run. He moved Gavin Sheets, but it was a 111.6 off the bat for a single as well. So the Sox offense showed up today, 4-1 victory. And the Rays, correct me if I'm wrong, it was only 4 hits, right? Because that infield single that was barely even a hit from Harold Ramirez that Vaughn made a nice play on. Just Kopech wasn't there to cover first base. What did we make of the pitching from not only Flexen? There was some rough outing there from Steven Wilson, but Brebbia and Kopech were fairly solid today as well.
Yeah, I mean, the story of the day was Chris Flexen. He was fantastic, 6 innings, and that's, we lauded Michael Soroka's ability to go a full 5 yesterday, even though he didn't have it early on. But Mike Clevenger in the first game of the series, only got 6 outs. You had to use a lot of the bullpen. Chris Flexen saves the bullpen tonight, but does it in really, really spectacular fashion. 8 strikeouts over those 6 innings. He only gives up 1 run, and this is a guy who's quietly been pretty good of late. He had a horrible first 3 starts. His ERA was almost 9 after those first 3 starts. But in the 5 outings since, you'll remember the 2 outings after those first 3 starts were out of the bullpen. The last 3 have been starts. His ERA is basically 1.5. This guy has really kind of bounced back kind of quietly after I think a lot of folks maybe gave up on him right away. But today was something else. That was a new level, and he was pitching really well. He was very effective. You mentioned the bullpen. Some struggles from Steven Wilson. He didn't have it from go. You could tell he was all over the place. And Pedro saw it just as well as anybody else did. I mean, he went and got him as soon as the rule book allowed him to after the 3 batters. Unfortunately, 2 of them were already on base via the walk. John Brebbia gets what he needed. He gets bailed out by a really weird double play. Gavin Sheets is just able to catch up to that pop fly kind of going toward the line in right field. But Isaac Paredes running the bases. He didn't think Sheets had any shot at that, and he's standing over on third base wondering what happened as Gavin throws it into second for the inning-ending double play. That, probably more than anything, the Rays screwing up, helped bail out the White Sox there, or bail out Steven Wilson, I should say. But then Brebbia goes 1-2-3 with 3 strikeouts in the 8th, and Kopech polishes it off with a scoreless 9th. So good pitching basically all the way around with the exception of Steven Wilson today. Chris Flexen, though, was the star of the night.
And Chris Flexen, the thing I saw him doing was not hitting the middle of the plate. Like, all his pitches were outside to right-handers. They kind of, the cutter and the four-seam fastball, they stayed outside or inside. Nothing was fat. Nothing was in the middle of the plate so people can tee off on him. So it was a very masterful job by him, but like, I haven't seen that in a while. And I know you have some stats to that, Sean, to speak to how well he pitched and how much faster he pitched than his normal this year he's put out. But I was seeing something much different from Chris Flexen than the other 2 starters the White Sox had this series in Soroka and Mike Clevenger. He went and attacked the guys. He had a game plan and said, okay, these balls are going to be on the outside zone. You're not going to hit me. If you do, it's going to be weak contact that I'm inducing. So it's very good to see that Chris Flexen is inserting himself into the starting rotation, because remember on Monday, we saw him in the 8th inning in the bullpen ready to come in for Tanner Banks if he would have fell right there. But now I would assume that Chris Flexen is in pen in that starting rotation. Never seeing him in the bullpen in the next couple weeks at least.
What? Slow your roll here.
Man, I mean, strong,
Flexen was good, and he's been good against the Rays this year. The other start that he had against them was a 3-hit outing. But I think the biggest thing for Flexen is that he showed that he can get right-handers out. I mean, you got 9 right-handers in this Rays lineup, and he was able to shut them down fairly easily. Let's go to the stats that you flashed earlier, Sarah. Flexen ends up giving the Sox 6 innings pitched, 96 pitches over those 6 innings, 1 earned run, 3 hits, 8 Ks, and 1 walk for Flexen. Savali went 4 2/3, gave up 2 earned runs, 5 hits, 4 Ks, and had 2 walks to the White Sox. And if you want to flash the pitch chart for Flexen here, as Herb was saying, no fat pitches for Chris Flexen today. And then when you actually put the heat map on this, it's pretty much all on that outside corner. There was not a single lefty that Chris Flexen had to face tonight. So he just really just set up shop on the outside corner. And I think that's, I don't know if that's something the Sox learned. I don't know if that's something that Chris Flexen, just kind of took away from the past 2 starts from Clevenger and Soroka, but it's an adjustment. I mean, there was no Lau, or is it Lowe? Which one's healthy?
The healthy
Josh
one is
Lau.
Yeah.
Josh Lowe. Brandon Lau, Josh Lowe.
Okay. Well, Josh Lowe ended up being a pinch hitter later in the game, but just one lefty that you ended up seeing from the Rays today. And Flexen was able to take advantage of it. I just don't know how repeatable that will be, just because his fastball is fairly hittable against lefties. The one thing that did stand out, the Rays broadcasters are broadcasting from behind home plate in Tropicana. It's kind of a little bit like towards the first base dugout. There was a play, I think, in the first inning where it was a foul behind home plate where Maldonado ended up going towards the fans and catching a ball above the Rays broadcaster. I don't know who exactly the pitcher was, but he said him and Maldonado.
Is that their, it was Maldonado, but is that their sideline reporter, or is that the play-by-play and color commentator?
Play-by-play guy.
Wow.
because it's a play-by-play guy, and then he ended up saying that him and Maldonado played together in Venezuela in like 2008, so he'd have to go and talk to him after the game after that. But the one thing that stuck out to me, at least because I was watching the Rays broadcast in the first inning, they talked about Flexen's delivery being the overhand style that it is. I know that when he was originally signed, Bannister talked about that and providing different arm slots and giving the opposing team and the opposing hitters, pretty much every arm slot to look out coming out of either the bullpen or the rotation. And the Rays broadcasters compared him to the old Iron Mike pitching machine that apparently is now coming back into style around Major League Baseball. It's just the blue box that throws overhand. And they talked about the difficulties of that mechanics. And I think the biggest thing for Flexen is maybe he is a guy that just really needs to warm up and ramp up. Maybe he does need that full spring training and first month to get those mechanics down, and that's why we see the increase in his miles per hour. He threw 43 four-seam fastballs today, and he sat at 93 miles per hour. That's up 1.7 miles per hour on his yearly average. It was around 91.3 for his yearly average before tonight, and then he sat 93 tonight. And we saw the similar thing with Soroka. So I don't know if this is something to do with Tropicana's gun being hot. I don't know if this has to do with maybe just Tropicana being indoors. I don't know if it's because it's warmer in Tampa Bay. I have no idea. But Chris Flexen was throwing harder, and that obviously worked well to his advantage against the Rays tonight. So I don't know if he's going to be able to repeat this, and that's the biggest question with Chris Flexen, but he definitely earned himself more time with the White Sox.
Yeah, and I mean, repeatability from the mechanic standpoint, from the type of performance he had tonight, you're absolutely right. Those things are sometimes hard for pitchers to lock down. But I'll say this, he's been effective. Teams aren't scoring runs off of him of late, which is the number one part of the job description right there. To Herb's point of him, being locked into the rotation for a little bit, we'll see. I think we saw something very interesting this series where obviously you mentioned Flexen was warming a little bit on Monday. Sometimes they can use the excuse of, it was just his throw day and he decided to do it during the game. That's pretty rare. But then we saw Brad Keller come in and pitch in relief yesterday. It might be a situation where these guys are both going to be on a similar schedule, maybe not the same one, and it's up in the air who's going to start until one of them is needed in long relief, right? Because I think Pedro, although Jared Schuster's been good, but I think Pedro probably has a little bit more confidence in the veterans maybe. He's gone to them a little bit more. Certainly, they've talked very positively about Brad Keller, and you've seen Flexen get some chances in the bullpen even after the initial starts were not very good at all. So we'll see. I think Flexen is probably preferred to be the starter, if last night was any indication by them using Brad Keller. But I definitely think that you could see kind of a creative strategy where that fifth spot in the rotation, or whatever number you want to assign to it, is kind of unclaimed until it needs to be claimed, and they can go maybe a few days out, 2 or 3 days out, before they decide exactly who's going to be needed in the run-up to that spot in the rotation coming up.
I would think technically, like, since he pitched 6 innings today, he wouldn't be available until, a throw day maybe on Saturday or something like that. But his next scheduled start will be Monday versus the Nationals. So, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because we saw Keller used yesterday after he had started on Friday in St. Louis. So that was technically, quote-unquote, short rest.
Yeah. And so, they might do the same thing with Flexen and have him available because, hey, if he's going to be pitching like this, I don't care where he's going to be pitching. I would much rather it be in the starting rotation because starters are more valuable than relievers. But if the White Sox see him and see a spot for him on Saturday or Sunday where they need to get innings done and they need to get outs and Flexen's available, I'm in for it.
Yeah, maybe they end up tailing him with Clevenger. I mean, again, Clevenger didn't have a full spring training, and we didn't see the best start in Tampa. Maybe he still does need, more time. I mean, Pedro said his limit was around 80 to 90 pitches. We saw him get up to like 53. So maybe Clevenger isn't even really able to go 75 pitches just yet, and they want to give, Clevenger's best 50 and then tail that with Flexen behind him. We'll have to wait and see. But maybe, just maybe, Chris Flexen pitched well enough to get traded. And we'll talk about the recently traded White Sox in Robbie Grossman right after the break. We do have, I guess, 45 people watching right now, but only 15 likes. So as Sarah usually says, make it make sense. Hit that like button if you haven't already. If you're commenting in the chat like Alejandro and Ellie and AJ and Edgardo.
Edgardo Alfonso?
Yeah.
I guess. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Edgardo. I don't know how to read. Edgardo. If you're like all the people hanging out with the chat, make sure you're hitting the like button. We want to let you know though about our great friends over at Shady Rays. I foolishly didn't wear my Shady Rays out on a walk today, and that was, my fault, and that burned my corneas. And that's why, with the getting. It's funny that this ad starts by saying get ready, and I wasn't ready for it. So that's on me. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last with our friends at Shady Rays, because they have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures like going on a walk. Something simple, and you can help your eyes by putting on your Shady Rays. You have them. They're right there. Just use them. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style, and they probably have a style in your favorite team's color, so you can get some nice black shades. I have black shades that, again, I didn't wear on my walk, and I felt stupid because they were just there in my car. So go and download or go over to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. They're giving their best deal of the season by using code CHGO to get 35% off polarized shades. Try for yourself these shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
And unlike Sean's, my ad read is not going to be just me chastising myself, because I frequently have Leinenkugels, and I'm very happy with that amount of intake. It is summer, even though there's a cold front coming through this evening, I hear, and it's supposed to only be in the 50s tomorrow. It doesn't matter. It's still summer, which means it's still shandy season. You celebrate it being chilly by getting yourself a nice chilly beer from the fridge. The delicious combination of beer and lemonade is good for this entire season. But if you are not, for some reason, a shandy person, or you just want to branch out a little bit, you can have all of the delicious varieties of Leinenkugels. They've got the Berry Weiss, the Lakeside Cherry, they've got the Sunset Wheat, and of course, the Honey Weiss, which is downright delicious, and you can tell that it was made by real Wisconsin bees. They're good brewers, those bees.
Oh.
They make a good beer.
Delicious.
Those bees. So anytime you have a summer activity this summer, whether you're going to the lake for a picnic, whether you're going down to the rate for a tailgate, bring some summer shandy with you. It'll make it, so much better. Flavor life's simple moments with Leinenkugels, the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to Leinie.com/CHGO to find delivery options near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO, or pick up Leinenkugels pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Leinenkugels, flavor the moment. Celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls. Yes.
And it's now time to get into Vinnie Duber's latest article over at ALLCITY.com. He is our CHGO White Sox beat writer, and when news comes a-calling, he is writing an article. And earlier today, the White Sox made official. Sarah, are you not a diehard?
I got called out for that yesterday. I am not a diehard.
Sarah.
I know, I got to work on that.
You're on a work computer. How are we not logged into our own website?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Anyways, Vinnie posted up at allchgo.com about the Robbie Grossman deal. Robbie Grossman heads back to Texas, and the White Sox get a brand new reliever in Anthony. And then who's going to say it? Do we want to just try Herb to? No, I know you got the pronunciation guide, but like I've been. All right, give us your best, Anthony.
Ready? Anthony Ho'o Pai Tuineto Marcus Tuiasopo.
That's all wrong, Herb. I think you got every sound wrong.
Marcus Tuiasopo was wrong? Okay.
He's coaching for somewhere.
Is he?
He's a minor league manager, I think, right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Or whichever one was the baseball player.
Yeah.
The football player
probably not.
Is not coaching a minor league baseball team. I don't
Go
think.
ahead. Hook us up, Vinny.
All right, here we go. I have the pronunciation guide here. Although Sean's been practicing, he seems a little miffed that he doesn't get to do it. So go ahead, Sean.
No. I want to see if you can get it.
You're gonna call me out when I get it wrong from reading it.
I didn't have the pronunciation guide. I just based it off of a Twitter clip, and I slowed it down to 0.5 and had to listen to it like 4 times to even like write it out phonetically.
The name of the 23-year-old relief pitcher who the White Sox acquired today from the Texas Rangers is Anthony Huopi Tu'ionitoa. And that's probably not very smooth, but at least all those sounds are correct, because that is the phonetic pronunciation guide right there.
What's a W? You say Huopi? Where's a W? Never mind.
You can read it right there.
I'm saying. I'm messing with you.
So anyway, this guy's been pretty good.
Full name. What's that?
I said this guy's been pretty good. If we want to move on from just pronunciation roundup here,
he's very interesting, and that's the thing. It's like we can just go all the way back to when he was drafted. He was drafted twice, and the second time was in the 2019 MLB draft by the Rangers, and then he has been a Ranger ever since then. Was selected in the 30th round. He's from Hawaii. And he was the D1 Player of the Year in 2018, playing both pitcher and center field. So this guy is just a badass from Hawaii. And his full name is Anthony David Maui Laikikia Hoi o Pipi Tui Oi Toa. So there you go. If he does make the major leagues, he will have the longest name on the back of a jersey in Major League history, with the apostrophes and the hyphens, and the digits as well. So I think it'll be 17 total digits in the name on the back of his jersey if he finally makes it. But yeah, no, Vinny, as you mentioned, even though he was eligible to be selected in the Rule 5 draft, this was a player that went to the Arizona Fall League and in 9 2/3 innings pitched there, didn't allow an earned run. And then in Double-A Frisco, over 12 1/3 innings, he has not allowed an earned run as well. He has been really, really impressive. He has a slider in the high 90s. He's got a fastball, or he's got a slider in the 90s, and he's got a fastball in the high 90s as a right-handed reliever. He seems very interesting for a 23-year-old who, is just being traded for Robbie Grossman, who's signed 4 days after the season started.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that at the end of the day, that's the headline here, is that Chris Getz got something for Robbie Grossman, a guy that they just took a minor league flyer on. We spent yesterday's show talking about this. I wrote about it a couple nights ago, and here it is, trade season underway for the White Sox. Who knows if this guy will be anything? He's a Double-A relief pitcher. We'll see if he ends up being a part of the long-term plan. But he has a chance to be part of the long-term plan here on the South Side, something that Robbie Grossman didn't. And there are so many players on this team that fit that bill, right? That fall into that kind of bucket. And we've talked about a lot of them. We haven't talked about some other ones because they might not have come to mind. Robbie Grossman didn't come to mind, I think, yesterday when we were talking about guys who might be traded. But really, if you're a veteran and you're not expected to be here past this year, maybe even if you are expected, just by the terms of your contract to be here shortly past next year, you could be traded off this White Sox team if it aids in bringing talent into the organization that can become something in terms of an opportunity to be part of the long-term plan. So I don't think we need to talk up this trade in terms of, oh my God, Chris Getz robbed the Rangers blind and he's, just wait till this guy's closing out games in 2026. Maybe that'll happen, but who knows? It might just be a minor leaguer. The idea is to turn Robbie Grossman into a lottery ticket, if you want to use that word, Herb, is an accomplishment in terms of trying to move this rebuilding project along.
Yeah, and I think that the only way you get a player like this is because the Rangers wanted Robbie Grossman back. They need somebody to hit the left-handed pitching that they haven't been doing, because he's not going to play the outfield for the Rangers. They already have a plethora of better outfielders for them, and they're mostly left-handed hitters. So I would say that Robbie Grossman is like thanking his lucky stars. He gets to go back to the reigning champion Texas Rangers, which he won a championship with last year, and kudos to Chris Getz for getting anything out of a negative player like Robbie Grossman. Negative in WAR, not the actual player is negative. So getting something from him, for him, man. And the player actually looks like a champion of a player. hey, I'll take it.
And here's the thing. We talked about this yesterday. We've talked about it for a long time now, right? Why are the White Sox playing these veteran guys when they could be giving these chances to younger players who could be a part of the future? This is why. If you need a clearer example, you're not going to get it, because Robbie Grossman played in 25 games for the White Sox. He didn't do much of anything from an offensive standpoint. I believe his OPS plus was 74, which makes him not more than 25% worse than an average major league hitter. They were saying, hey, go out there, play. You catch some team's eye, and we get something. And that's what happened. And I would expect this to be the first of many. I can't say that it will all work out, right? You got to have a team that wants these guys. And if, for example, just to pick a name at random, Mike Clevenger doesn't end up pitching very well and he doesn't interest anybody, you're not going to be able to make that trade. But what if Chris Flexen does and someone wants an extra starter, or even just a guy who can go out there and throw 3 innings in relief when you need it down the stretch? So these types of deals, you might not be able to call them a blockbuster, not a single one of them, but these types of deals are probably going to be popping up quite frequently over the next 3 months for the White Sox.
Well, and two, you just if this guy hits, Robbie Grossman, who will play maybe 15 games for you, turned into a guy that you'll have control over for 6 years. That is a great trade right there. And even if he doesn't hit, Robbie Grossman wasn't even really deserving of playing time on this White Sox team. And this is a team with 9 wins. So I'm all happy that the White Sox can just kind of clean their hands, be done with Robbie Grossman. And even though this wasn't a guy that the Rangers really protected as he was Rule 5 draft eligible, and maybe he wasn't a top 30 prospect in their rankings, the equivalent of Future Sox, the guy that runs the equivalent of the Rangers Future Sox, tweeted about him 22 hours ago before this trade was made. He said, we got to talk about my man Bubba. Also, this guy's nickname is Bubba. He has 5 names and his nickname is Bubba. So let's go. Bubba Ho'opipi Tui Oni Toa. The pride of Maui is learning to harness his wicked slider. Again, it's at 90 miles per hour. His command of his mid-90s heater is coming along too. He competes like a dog. And how are these numbers? 10 games, 12 and a third innings pitched, 4 walks, 16 strikeouts, and no earned runs. And then again, he followed up after this trade was made, saying the Texas Rangers did what now? And for the record, it's never, ever a good idea to trade a player named Anthony Bubba David Maui Laikeke Ho'opipi Tui Oni Toa. So Godspeed, Bubba, and I'm excited for him because, again, that's just the coolest name, and I know my next White Sox jersey if my current Depop bid doesn't go through. So there you go. All right. Should we take another break and we'll talk a little bit about Bryan Ramos? We'll talk a little bit about our guy Luis Robert Jr. and a minor setback.
Yeah, before we get there, Sean, who was the longest name before if this guy makes it to the major leagues? Is it William Van Landingham or Jarrett Saltalamacchia?
No, it's the twins, Simeon Woods Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there's also Encarnacion Strand would be it, but Encarnacion Strand isn't on the back of his name plate. It's just Encarnacion. So they made a jersey just for the photo for Encarnacion Strand, but it just says Encarnacion. So right now it's Wood Richardson, and then our guy Bubba would jump him. So
good salty reference.
I would love to see Bubba. What did you reference?
Saltalamacchia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Jared. All right. We want to let you know, though, about our friends over at Circa Sportsbook, the world's largest sportsbook. Go and download the world's largest sportsbook over at circasports.com/Illinois-app. That's circasports.com/Illinois-app. They do not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players, and they encourage bettors to download and explore all other sporting apps available in Illinois so you can compare the lines from each sportsbook and see that most of, if not all the time, you are getting the best lines to wager on with Circa Sportsbook. And the best part of Circa Sportsbook, they run this beautiful resort and casino in Las Vegas. We've been able to visit that beautiful resort and casino and see the pristineness of that place. And the same team that runs the main Circa Sportsbook at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas runs the app as well. And there are real people behind that brand who resolve issue in a timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots or toll-free calling services. Circa is going to take care of you because they want to treat you with respect. So download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app, at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537, text GMB to 833-234, visit areyourreallywinning.com.
Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events that are near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. I buy tickets from Game Time all the time. In Atlanta, I bought tickets down there. Bought some from Milwaukee, and I just bought some for today's game, the Padres versus the Chicago Cubs, and they were cheaper and more inexpensive than any other secondary market. And if they are not, with the Game Time guarantee, you know that you're going to get the lowest price, or they'll give you 110% of the difference in your account like they gave me when I found one for the Atlanta seats that I have. And Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind in your purchase. See the views from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And all-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal without any of the hidden fees. And they're obsessed with finding you ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Times has deals right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to go for finding last-minute seats. And with the zone deals like I got in Milwaukee, you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. And like I said, with the Game Time guarantee, it means you'll get the best price. You find tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of that difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Thank you, Herb, and I'm glad the chat figured out the mystery of the shortest White Sox name. It's not Jim Cott. Corey Lee could work. Jace Fry could work. There's a couple three-digit. Steve Sachs. There you go.
Carlos May.
Carlos Lee.
And Carlos Lee. Absolutely. El Caballo.
Yes.
And Carlos Lee. And there you go. All right. But let's talk about Bryan Ramos. There's 5 letters in his last name. But he has been pretty impressive since being called up from Birmingham. He has put a ball in play in 11 of his 13 at-bats, and 6 of those balls in play have been at 100-mile-per-hour exit velocity. Just missed, as you mentioned earlier, Vinny, his first home run by truly inches at Tropicana. If that fence was like 2 inches lower, he would have had his first homer. He's been extremely impressive so far with Bryan Ramos. Is there anything in particular about Ramos's play that has impressed you guys?
I mean, yeah. I mean, what you just read there. I mean, this is a guy who's going up against Major League pitching for the first time. He's never even seen AAA pitching. Not usually AA pitching is better, but he's seeing a higher level of pitching for the first time, and he is handling it. He is going. He's taking good at bats. He's doing what he needed to do today. I believe you had Ozzie refer to it as the at bat of the year when he was attempting to just move a runner over to third base, which is what you're supposed to do in that situation, and the ball gets through because he's able to place it very, very well there, just out of reach of the second baseman for a single. This is a guy who's been very impressive, and I think it's the textbook example of taking advantage of an opportunity. This is the thing that 2 years ago, or however many it was, we were wondering, is Lenyn Sosa going to take advantage of this opportunity being up here? Last year, Jose Rodriguez, is he going to take advantage of this opportunity being up here? They didn't do it. And Bryan Ramos came up for a similar reason. They needed to fill a roster spot. He was on the 40-man roster, so they brought him up, probably not expecting, hopeful maybe, but not expecting him to be here for an extended period of time. And now, though it's only been a handful of games, there's plenty of time left perhaps before Danny Mendick comes off the injured list, but they have he's making them make a decision. He's forcing the issue. He is saying, Yeah, I deserve not only to be up here, but to have an extended opportunity up here so I can show you that this isn't a flash in the pan. He's playing hard. You saw him, run into an out at home plate today, though that was the play. He was supposed to go home on that. Tough way to make an out. It's an aggressive play by the team, but he's a guy who's making that aggressive play happen. The at bat before, you get the ground ball off the shortstop's glove. So Ramos is on first base. DeJong hits a ground ball off the shortstop's glove. It bounces into shallow center field. Bryan Ramos doesn't stop. Bryan Ramos never hesitated going around second base, making it first to third to even set up the potential for that aggressive play in which he ended up being thrown out at home. So he's doing, I don't want to say everything right. I think he's had some defensive plays that could have gone better. But, man, for a young guy who is only at AA to come up and take advantage of this opportunity and have success, it's very impressive.
As we talked about, Isaac Paredes' dumb, boneheaded play with the baseball IQ was at 0, where he's going to third base and Gavin Sheets easily doubles him up. It's the opposite for Bryan Ramos. Just you could tell he understands the game. Like Vinnie was just explaining, he needs a ball to be hit to the right side of the infield. He gets his hands inside the baseball and juts it over there. He wasn't trying to necessarily get a single, but he hit it hard enough, and so it jumps off the glove of the second baseman, and a run scores there. That is just baseball smart. The pitch was inside. He does an inside-out swing. How many times have we seen every White Sox player come up here and the pitcher's trying to do something against them, and they go right into what the pitcher's trying to do to them and just ground the ball to the shortstop so that guy doesn't advance. It's so many times, and it's good to see that a guy that came up and wasn't having a great year at Birmingham at all, but he's saw this opportunity. He's taking the opportunity to make sure that he's like, I'm not leaving no stone unturned. And so whenever operation and something needs to happen, I'm going to do it. And like Vinny said, did not slow down on that ball. That is smart baseball that we haven't seen a lot of from these White Sox. And then the other day, I know we were laughing at the play eventually, but he gets the ball and he sees a fast runner down there. He knows that he has to get the ball over there. So he just throws the ball and it kind of hits off the back of the mound and dribbles over to Andrew Vaughn. Gets the out. The guy just knows. It seems like his baseball IQ is up there, and he knows as a young player that I need to do the right plays and then I'll stay on this field. And he's hitting the ball with some authority too. A couple 100-mile-per-hour hits today, and I think since May 5th they flashed up that he's only trailing some of the biggest hitters in baseball like Aaron Judge and 100-mile-per-hour hits since that time he's come up. So I love the player right now. And when Danny Mendick comes back, I see Danny Mendick be sitting on that bench because Bryan Ramos should be playing every time until you eventually get Yohan Moncada back because you're trying to trade Yohan Moncada. But if that's not going to happen, I would rather have Bryan Ramos because he's the future. And let's see what we got from him. I know he's not going to hit 300 for his career, but as long as it's going on right now, let's keep him in the lineup.
And listen, you can still tell this is a young guy, right? There are bad plays or questionable plays that have been made on the defensive side, right? William brings up tonight where he comes screaming in from third base on a foul pop-up and nearly knocks over Martin Maldonado, who's just waiting there for the ball to fall down. Sean, you and I talked on Sunday about that throw he made in the rain delay game, low to Corey Lee that allowed Goldschmidt to go back to third base, that allows the bases to be loaded and puts the White Sox in that situation that they ended up getting out of. Herb, you're right. We were laughing about him basically rolling that ball to first base yesterday. There have been some other throws and stuff like that, but listen, it's a young guy, and if today was the example of why the veterans are playing, the Robbie Grossman trade, and why you're getting that, you're seeing simultaneously the benefit of those young guys getting those opportunities. Bryan Ramos is not only taking advantage of it from an offensive standpoint, but maybe is developing and learning some stuff about how to play defense at the major league level at the same time. You can have those kind of plays if you're getting them out of the way. If they're learning moments for you, you can have them in a year like this, because let's say that throw costs him that game on Saturday. Well, guess what? He's not going to make a throw like that again, probably. And if he is, then you find out as an organization that he's not ready for that and that something needs to change. So the opportunities for these young guys are going to come, after the trade deadline, but getting them now, they're valuable too, and you're seeing it from Ramos.
And two, this is I think similar, like the negative parts of Ramos that we brought up, the almost near collision with Maldonado, the throw home as well. And I would even say running home tonight where there's no outs and he's on third, like how he got there is by playing fast and being aggressive. And we heard Pedro when talking about Colas, like he's playing faster than his brain's kind of going, right? Like I think it's just all about honing in his game for Ramos, and not even to the effect where Colas was getting called out more like by Pedro. I don't think the errors have been that egregious by Ramos, but it just seems like a player that wants to make an impact, that wants to go out there and take full advantage of this opportunity. And I think that play where it bounces off the shortstop's glove and he takes and goes first to third is exactly what you want to see, right? Like I know we talk and laugh about fast, but if fast is actually sinking into the younger guys and the Ramoses and Montgomerys are actually picking it up and taking this in, then cool. Hey, I can't make mock fast as much as I want to, but I'm all for him being aggressive, him playing fearlessly, and I would rather him, be overly aggressive and make that out at home than just, stay there at third base. It seems like he, wants to put an effort forward, and it's been fun to watch. He's not chasing balls, he's not whiffing at balls, and he's hitting balls hard, and he's playing fast. So I'm all for Bryan Ramos getting all the playing time in the world. And you bring up Moncada, Herb. I know you want to jump in here real quick. I'm all for too. If Moncada comes back, we've heard Moncada being able to play first base. Let's give him a first base glove and play Bryan Ramos at third base. I mean, I don't think that there's a rush to, send Bryan Ramos down. I mean, if he's going to be performing well and he's still performing well 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now, there's no reason to send him down.
And I think that play was just the contact play. Like if it's hit on the ground, you're going to be running home, which I disagree with because they're already running the guy from first and doing the hit and run there. So like, you're going to stay out of the double play in that regard, so why do the contact play with the infield drawn in on the right side of the infield? So I think that was more the coaching staff saying, hey, contact play, we're going to go home, instead of Bryan Ramos just on his own willy-nilly and saying, I'm going to be going home on a ball that's hit right to the second baseman who's in front of the bag.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not upset with the actual play there. It would have been nice to have the bases possibly loaded there, but I mean, whatever. I mean, they win, so I'm not too upset with it. But I'm all for Ramos getting all the playing time that we can see. All right, the only other thing that I wanted to bring up tonight was Luis Robert Jr. Daryl Van Schouwen reporting from Tampa Bay per general manager Chris Getz that Luis Robert Jr. has had a little setback in his recovery process, and he will still be monitored before he begins playing games at the Sox complex in Arizona. From Getz, he was a little hesitant early in the week. He feels pretty good, so we're going to monitor that. No one is too concerned with it. We still feel like he's going to get into some game action relatively soon, get some at-bats at Arizona, and join an affiliate at some point. And without offering a specific timeline, Getz said, we're not too concerned, but we want to make sure he's fully healthy before we get him in any action. And there's no real idea of when he'll start at affiliate ball or when those games will start, but it's a little bit later than the White Sox originally expected. So, we'll see more extended time here for Tommy Pham. I think that's the most important thing when we're talking about these trade pieces. Tommy Pham driving in runs can only help the White Sox. And I'm all for not pushing back Luis Robert Jr. So, maybe a June return for Luis Robert Jr. at this point.
We'll see. I think that's probably a fine guess. We'll see what that setback ends up being, but I think mid-May, when that was the last target that Chris threw out there, I think everybody was kind of, their eyebrows went up a little bit, kind of a little surprised that Luis was progressing that well. So I don't want to say that he had, kind of some cushion built in there, but the idea that he was kind of ahead of the curve and now is maybe coming back to it a little bit. They're not talking about it like it's anything serious, so it would seem that maybe he just needs a little bit more time. Who knows? That could be as small as just a few days. But I think the next thing to watch is just going to be when he ends up joining, most likely Charlotte, I would imagine. But we'll see. We've seen guys based on the schedule go to different places, whether that be Birmingham, or wherever. So we'll see. That's probably the next thing to wait for. I'm sure we'll hear from Chris at some point on the upcoming homestand, and perhaps even by then they'll have some more clarity. Maybe not by tomorrow because that was just said today. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But it doesn't seem like it's anything to worry about if they are to if we're to read into what they were talking about today.
I like that they're erring on the side of caution and taking their time with them, like they probably do with most players. But this player, especially, take your time. Do whatever you need to do to make sure that when he's hitting the ground with the White Sox, he's hitting the ground running, and he's not going to re-injure himself. He's not going to have a setback on the major league stage. And so take your time. I don't care if he doesn't come back until July. Make it right. Make the injury right. And then he can come back, and then we can see the Luis Robert Jr. that we all expect. I don't want him to come back a shell of himself and, nursing this hip all the time. I want him to come back as close to 100% as he can, as long as they can get him there, as close as they can get him there.
So you're not trying to trade him. I mean, I think Vinnie, we brought up trades, and I think Vinnie threw out Luis Robert Jr. We're not trying to trade Luis.
I mean, listen, there is no doubt that the best opportunity to significantly improve the talent level in the organization would be to trade your best player. I think that probably goes for a lot of teams, and certainly the White Sox don't have a lot of guys below Luis Robert Jr. that are going to fetch that giant return package, Dylan Cease being the one who was here, and now he's gone pitching at Wrigley Field for the Padres today. So that being said, Luis Robert Jr. is under team control for, 3 more years past this. He could very well be, your starting center fielder on the next contending team if this thing goes along as Chris Getz hopes it will. But Chris Getz, the last time he talked, was the one who pointed out that this is going to be a long-term process. And so if you're going to spend 2 or even 3 of those years that you have of Luis Robert Jr., 4 of them, including this season, right, just kind of waiting and just kind of, being in the doldrum part of the rebuilding process, are you maximizing your value on that player when you could maximize it perhaps really, really well by trading a guy who has 3+ years of control left? I'm not saying they should. I'm saying that opportunity exists. You got to get back what you want from it, right? You got to get back an enormous return package for a guy who's proven himself, when he's healthy, one of the best players in baseball. If that package doesn't come along, there's no point in making that deal because you can revisit this in the offseason or at next year's trade deadline if you need to, if you feel you need to. So I don't think he's dangling Luis Robert Jr. by any stretch of the imagination, but he's got to answer the phone if somebody comes calling for him, because there might be that golden return package on the other end.
Yeah, and I hope he's telling every team that does call him for Luis Robert Jr., make your best offer. If it's not up to our par, don't ever call me again,
or call me again with a better one.
Yeah. Don't this is trash. Don't you have to wow me. If you're calling me for Luis Robert, don't call with your 7th or 8th prospect. Call with your top prospects, or else you're not getting him.
I agree, and my just biggest thing is, again, Jerry Reinsdorf said that he owes the fans to get better as soon as possible, and I don't think that that path includes trading Luis Robert Jr. I understand that you have to listen to everything and that you can't say no, but and we've talked about this, the logistics of trading Luis Robert Jr. seem nightmarish, and it seems like you can't actually get the true value for that type of player just because of how much control he does have, how high that ceiling is. And we just saw him, provide 38 home runs from the center field position with great defense. So it's really tough to put a value on that. And if you are trying to get better as fast as possible, I don't see how affordable 27-year-old, 28-year-old who plays great on both sides of the field can hurt your team. Like it's nonsense to me. And I think that you can wait until you have 2 years left of control or 1 year left of control if you're not serious about re-upping him and thinking about trading him then, because you'll still get, we got basically a golden parachute offer from the Padres with Cease. I think you can get that as well for Luis Robert Jr. later on, and you could still try to push in 2025 to have a competitive team. All right, that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. There's one thing I wanted to ask you guys. It is non-White Sox related.
Yeah. Sean, I have one little thing I want to remind people of, and that is our lovely, lovely takeover we have on May 27th, and people should get tickets.
Sarah with the short and to the point ad read.
That's all I got. I'll put a link in the comment section, and people should come. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, come to our first takeover of 2024, and there is the option to buy just for the 27th, or there is the option to buy a pass for all 3 of our takeovers. It's a fun time. Should be a blast again this year. So come out on the 27th. We also got one in June, and we also got one in August when the Sox take on the Cubs. So thank you, Sarah, for getting that shout out there. Anything else? Oh, no. The other thing that I wanted to throw out there, it's not White Sox related. I kind of try to make it White Sox related, but I have a strawberry plant. I had one last year from Trader Joe's. What should I name my strawberry plant? I put 4 options out there. Davy, because we're the conductor of the Davy train. Drew, Bubba, or Leary. Do you guys have a favorite of the 4?
Well, I want to know what they have to do with strawberries.
Yes.
Okay, well, that was the one thing that came out. Like, it was mostly just I was going to name them after White Sox things. And then everyone kept saying Daryl, and I didn't get it. And then I finally put it together after Mario said Daryl from The Simpsons. And I'm like, oh, okay, Daryl Strawberry. Got it. I didn't know that it had to be like strawberry specific. I don't know. Can I just not like the White Sox and name it, name my strawberry plant after the White Sox?
You can. It's your strawberry plant. You're allowed to. I just thought we were going for puns.
Yeah, I was going to go with rhubarbra.
I'm okay with rhubarbra because it's not really a strawberry pun. It's just a fruit pun.
It's a rhubarb pun.
I kind of like rhubarbra. It's a rhubarb pun. Yeah. But why does it have to be punny?
Because that's where we are. I would say Bubba because Bubba is always funny, and it's to call your plant Bubba is cool. And we got our new player is called Bubba apparently.
Should I just call it David Anthony Maui Laikiki Bubba Ho-O-P-P Tui Oa Toa?
No, your plant's going to die before you finish his name.
Just Bubba. All right. And then final thing, R.I.P. Steve Albini. Vinny, you're wearing the I Dig Rock and Roll shirt. I know that Steve Albini also dug rock and roll, a Chicago legend, passing at the age of 61. So many, many, many great albums that he not only recorded, produced, and engineered. He was a legend in Chicago, and it kind of sucks that he died. So shout out to Steve Albini. All right, sky point to Steve Albini. Anyways, final thoughts. We got Cleveland Guardians coming to town next.
I mean, the White Sox have their 2 strongest pitchers going against them in the first 2 games with Fetty and then Crochet. So if they have a chance, they have to win one of those 2 games to at least split with the Cleveland Guardians, who are currently in first place in this AL Central.
Yeah, seeing both Fetty and Crochet will be probably the headline going in, right? Because those 2 guys are on a roll right now, and Eric Fetty in particular pitching very, very well.
Fetty versus Lively, Crochet versus Carrasco, Clevenger versus McKenzie on Saturday, and then Soroka versus Logan Allen on Sunday. We will be with you on Thursday for a post-game show. Herb and I in the studio, Vinny at Guaranteed Rate Field, and we will join you on Sunday as well for a post-game show for that Soroka versus Logan Allen matchup. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at Ectorwall23 as our CHGO White Sox community leader. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can read his latest piece about Robbie Grossman up at allchgo.com. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox. Thank you to Sarah for sneaking in that takeover read there right at the end. And you can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. We will talk to you tomorrow for, do we have a pregame too, Herb?
We do have a pregame.
We'll see you for the pregame tomorrow. Eric Fetty versus Ben Lively. Let's go.
We all silly like the mayor.